I said, man, this stuff is crazy.
Moltbot, which is the artist formerly known as Clawdbot, you're building, right?
I was doing some work, I saw it pop up. I didn't think too much of it. It looked really interesting. I initially thought, okay, great. It's yet another agent builder or like somebody's agent that they threw together. Started to see other people kind of picking it up and using it and augmenting some tasks, and they were getting positive results. I would say, yeah, there's some novelty to this, the way it's structured and organized, the way it's using RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation for those who don't know, and the way it's managing kind of like short versus long-term memory. It's using sessions. You can set up cron jobs. To me, this is like a research tool that we already had, but taken 1000x to the next level, hooked up to everything, maybe kind of pulled a little bit of ideas from like skills that Claude was trying to use. And it's pulled in all these ideas and these interesting research topics to a point where it is actually usable. It's been fun to play with. I just got it to a state where I feel comfortable with the security posture, and I've been connecting more and more things in isolation, giving it restricted access to API keys. They're made in their own accounts. There's a lot of craziness going on that we were just looking at, which is people were using Opus 4.5 because, yeah, that's the best model out right now. And also it has its own baked in security considerations where it's not as easily jailbreakable and it's not leaking information. So that seems to be what everyone wants to use for the brain, where this then goes and orchestrates everything.
So Claude Opus 4.5, I'm reading that Anthropic is actually banning accounts if they're using Moltbot with it. Is that true?
I haven't been banned yet, but I
Yeah.
haven't done very much yet, so I don't know. I would be shocked if it wasn't true, although it's hard to tell. Are they getting banned because of the things they're asking it to do, and those accounts would have been banned anyway? Or is this being considered a breach of their TOS and they are actually banning people because of that?
That would make
So,
sense if they're using it to drive a computer to do something nefarious, or if they're saying to create a million spam emails, or let's
right.
do some phishing, and using Opus 4.5, which is, like you said, the most powerful model out there to do this. That could be a very big problem for Anthropic if they're caught powering malware.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I think there's an interesting possibility there, and this is pure speculation, where are they banning it because they kinda started to make their own thing like this
Yes.
already? And now are they gonna go and integrate all of these features into their own products? So they wanna ban it because they know they have the best model to use for this. They see the success and hype around it, and now they're gonna make their own thing and release that, and it's gonna be some grand announcement coming up
I
in the
would
short term, like,
I would
in
imagine
days.
this is, yeah, they're gonna try to figure out how to make Claude Cowork far more capable, right? This is the capable thing that everybody's been looking for, wanting. We're talking like years of looking at AI and getting these like step function improvements of like, wow, now the models are thinking, or now we can connect it to external tooling. But I've personally always wanted to have these models looking at my email, looking at my calendar, looking at, I want them to help me in ways where I don't have to initiate it the same way I do the existing chatbots and agents that we're using today. And I think what is so appealing to me about this is it does that, right? You put it on your machine, it looks at everything. You can give it access to it, but what I'm so interested in is what you're doing right now. And like, I just bought a Mac Mini that's going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to do this tomorrow. You just put it on your Mac Studio. I want you to run us through how you've set this thing up in a way that you've made it. So let's not call it secure, because it's certainly not secure by design by any stretch of the imagination. But I think there's a certain amount of, if you're going to use this and try it, here are a couple of configuration decisions and architecture decisions that you really should be using when you set this thing up. So
Yes.
go for
Okay, so small adjustment. It was quicker for me to just spin up a VM, and I felt more comfortable locking down a VM, so that's what I did. So I spun up. This is running on my personal desktop, and the reason there's important considerations here. I didn't want to intermix work access and this access. So that was one strong consideration. So the only thing that's using my work account in some way is my email tied to a new Claude account to get access to Opus. That is the only form of like intermixing between work and my personal stuff. And the reason for that is I didn't know what this thing was capable of. I don't want to accidentally give someone some kind of side channel access, all the keys to the kingdom, and I'm not going to give it direct access to my GitHub account or full unrestricted access to my GitHub account because I don't want it to go in and wipe my repo. So there, like, you have to think about these things because you can run this with full root access on your machine, complete access to all of your accounts, complete access to all of your emails. But what is it going to do with that information? Another example is if I give it full access to my email, all someone has to do is if I post on LinkedIn that I'm using Claude and I'm saying how great it is for my email, now they know they can send me an email, which is not hard to find an email for somebody. They can send me an email with an indirect prompt injection that's hidden in the text. And who knows what this thing is going to send back to them with full access on the machine. And who knows what you've hooked up to it that it can ask for and keep iterating. And that would be such an easy attack path. Is just purely email, and it's such an easy thing to forget that my email is really available online, and I just burned myself because I told people how excited I was that this is doing stuff for me.
Yeah.
And
No, and I think what's also interesting about this too is like all of these extensions that can be installed. Like we've got a VS Code extension that installs a Screen Connect RMM from a remote server. As an attacker, use this technique to install additional extensions. I mean, now you have the entire environment to explore as an attacker once you get into these areas. But what I think is interesting, right? So like if you're going to be building this, just assume that it's open and people can see what you're doing. Thereby it shouldn't be on your personal machine, shouldn't be on your work machine, but a new VM, right? A new EC2 instance, a new, like I'm doing it.
a Docker container, some
Exactly.
form of isolation, yeah, and sandboxing. These are the basics of security. Least privilege, limit the access, limit the availability of information you don't want it to have, or you don't want someone else to have. Put restrictions around any API keys that you have. Put limits on API keys. Ask it to use rate limiting so you're not uh, losing your access to any APIs that you're using. So a little project I asked it to do just as a test was I wanted to set up some kind of daily report because I'm constantly scanning the web. I'm looking for new information around agentic security, AI security. I'm looking for new vulnerabilities that are popping off, new technologies that are popping up. And this usually takes me quite a bit of time, honestly. Like I'll at night, instead of reading a book, I'm usually reading articles online or waiting for things to pop up. So I thought, okay, what's a nice little easy first project? Let's flip this around. Why don't I have this thing have a task set up and it will set up a cron job where now it pulls from all the sources I want it to pull for. It looks for trending topics, it looks for interesting pieces of information, and it just consolidates it all in what I would expect to get out of a newsletter from somebody if I was following some if there was an AI security professional on Substack or otherwise. It's rolling it all into a single report for me. So you can see I had it do a test. So critical and novel things. It's giving me a nice breakdown. It's doing all of the calculations for me. And I'm expecting tomorrow morning it's going to pop up with this exact same information. I can scan through here. I can look for all the same things I would look for at night. And I did mention that we're doing exactly what we're doing now, some YouTube and LinkedIn content. And it gave me suggestions on what we could post about that day. So this just saved me probably hours that I would normally spend at night scanning for all this information and trying to find interesting things that pop up. And it genuinely found some interesting things on its own, just looking at trends. And so it's using Brave's API to set up an API key. I had to set up YouTube data v3 API key. I already had a personal account for that enabled. It does. You can set up an X API key. I just didn't want to pay for it, and I didn't look too far into this, but it looks like they have a new developer environment or like developer setup. So you can give it that. Otherwise, it actually just it suggested on its own that it would use Brave to go incrementally search for any trending topics on X. Because
You
like
see, I
great,
think that's what I'm most interested in, right? Because there are so many, like you can do a lot of this stuff already with the APIs that exist and,
yep,
being able to do these polls. Whereas what this opens up is the full desktop environment and all of the applications that don't have that API access. For example, LinkedIn. I like to take all of my LinkedIn posts and look at the interaction rates, see which content is working. But I have to do all that manually because when I am creating these apps, like I'm not a LinkedIn marketing partner. Whereas there are these more expensive marketing platforms like Hootsuite that is, so you've got to
yep.
use them and pay them a couple $100 a month for it. Whereas I just want to be able to use their API to pull the data that I'm already interacting with through their UI and their front end for regular people, right? And I think that's what's
Yeah, exactly.
interesting is that now you've got this unlock on a machine where if you've provisioned this thing correctly, you can have it go and read these things. So how do you prevent it from writing? Right? Or do you?
I wanted to test how it works with Claude Code, how it handles multiple coding tasks simultaneously, because I had read that it's able to manage like multiple coding projects simultaneously and keep working in concert, short of giving it its own account and setting it up with its own separate GitHub or something like that, and then like adding it to a project. I just gave it a single mono repo, and it's called Erebus because that's what I named the bot. It asks you to name it. And for those who don't know, Erebus is like the god of darkness. It's just a nerdy gaming thing I use. I gave it a fine-grained personal access token with very specific lockdown restrictions. It can commit directly to this repo only. This is the only repo it has access to. It has no access to any of my other repos. I had it split the project up how I wanted, how I like to build things, which is infrastructure as code with Terraform. I like to prototype with Python. I might do some research projects, so I split some of those out. TypeScript for the front end, and it decided to do it this way. I don't really care. I'm just kind of testing to see what it would do. But as a fun little project, I said, come up with a subdomain identification tool given any host name or a list of host names, and it cranked this little tool out. It actually had a authentication issue with Claude Code, so it just went and cranked this out on its own. It didn't even use Claude Code, and it tested it. It executed it. It gave me status updates via Telegram, which you can set up. So I have a bot set up in Telegram, sends you the messages. I can communicate directly with it from anywhere. And because Telegram has nice formatting, I get images in here, I get code snippets, everything I like, so I can like easily read the information it's giving me. And I don't know, we could do like, what's something you want? We could make something right now.
Let's make a task bot where we share the tasks that Erebus needs to do on a daily basis. So you can check in on those tasks throughout the day like you would an employee that's reporting to you. So I would love to see like a Kanban board or some kind of task board where you can update it and provide detailed ticketing.
Just like I was working with you as another developer or employee. All right, see what happens. Got the message. We can see it's typing in the top. Expand this a little more. Lives in the workspace, JSON state plus web UI. Shows Kanban columns, backlog, in progress, done. But it is at work. You check in anytime. Serve via Canvas for live view. And it's just building it. It's just running on its own. So
It's amazing. And then ideally
and
you'll
you
be able
you
to.
can actually have multiple chat sessions going. I haven't tried this yet, and you can be running multiple things at the same time. And it actually gives you a really nice dashboard, and you can track all of the chat sessions and manage them from the dashboard. And then you can see all the cron jobs it has scheduled. Here's the task board already. It even ran it. It's just sitting, it's running. I'll update task.json as I work on things. So it's just running it right out of JSON. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So as it
I
stands.
mean, it's not fantastic, but I mean,
Yeah, I think that the power is when you give it more access. and have it think through more tasks. And I'm really excited to experiment with it, explore with it. And from a security perspective, you think right now it should be its own isolated environment, its own data, none of your data. You communicate directly with it in the way that is, not sandbox, but just secure. So if we were to break it down into 3 or 4 core steps, what would they be for securely trying this thing out? If that is, or should we even say securely at this point because it's just so not secure?
The amount of security is inversely proportional to the amount of access. So the more access you give it, the less secure it is. The less access, the more secure it is. So in general, the more you're locking this down, the more you're isolating its access to things, the better off you are right now. And there's not I would treat it like a separate employee almost. I would give it its own API keys. I would give it its own email if you're going to give it an email. There's lots of ways to share information between two people. So treat it like that. Let it add tasks to your calendar. Don't let it delete tasks from your calendar. Let it make code for you, but put it in its own isolated repo that only it has a person like a fine grained PAT for, and then you can pull that code out of there as you want and you can put it elsewhere. Sure, the trade-off there is with that example, if you really just wanted to set it and forget it, like if you wanted to create a SaaS product right now with this, I would be apprehensive to say you should let it cut releases, deploy something, manage your cloud environment. But you could set up workflows where there's stop points where you're the human in the loop checking on that. This can run and do way more than any other tool I've used can do right now. So you let it figure out the features, watch the trends, crank out a new feature, but while you're sleeping, before you even think about it in the morning after you read a daily report, it could have all the code pushed for you. Maybe it has the release cut and you just have to do a final sign off on it. Click your CI/CD workflow button and push the release out with the new feature. Yeah.
I want you to send an email for me, but I need to approve every email before you send it. Don't just go rip off 300 emails. Is that essentially what you're saying?
I, there's trade-offs either way. You have to understand what is your comfort level with this doing things for you. Are you okay if it deleted your entire email inbox? Okay, great. Give it full access to your email inbox. If I'm not comfortable with that, so I wouldn't do that. But maybe you're comfortable enough to give it write access to your email inbox so it can read the emails, it can write and send emails, but it can't ever delete emails. I think the issue is unless you're using an email API that has those controls built into it, there's maybe not like Google. I've never looked at this. I don't know if I can give you, Aaron, access to my email and not let you delete things. I've never tried to do that. So if that's possible, great. If not, okay, maybe I need to set it up with a different account. Maybe I set up a forwarding rule that it's forwarding emails to it that it can read. Then it goes and sends the email or something along those lines. And I think the problem we have right now is this thing is blown up so fast. There's so many people using it that aren't thinking about these things that they need to start thinking about them and then know that there's plenty of material out there and plenty of people to talk to set this up the right way and use it the right way. And I'm sure someone's working on an enterprise tool for like an enterprise version of it right now that has all these buttons and levers and ways to restrict it and lock it down.
Could that be why Claude is banning the usage on these accounts?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
That would make sense to me.
If I mean, that's pure speculation, but yeah, it's possible.
I've seen a number of people say this is what Siri had promised to be with Apple Intelligence that was
Yep.
never delivered upon.
Not even close. Not even close.
And you have to imagine it's not because the capabilities weren't there, but why is Apple really dragging their feet on this? And it's frankly, it's due to security, it's due to privacy, it's due to model size, being able to run the most the most capable models locally without sending the data off, which is another security concern, right? Opus 4.5 is the one that you need to run with this. The closest one you sent me this morning was, what was that, a 370 billion parameter model that you need to split between two H200s or three H200s. Like you're not doing that on an iPhone, right? So it makes
Oh,
sense why
not even close.
yeah, Apple has pushed and pushed and pushed, but now we're at this interesting open source proof point of this is possible, but you have to sacrifice security to get this power, right?
And
You have to
privacy, like you
sacrifice
said.
privacy massively so. Thereby, are we ready to do that? And if we
I
are,
don't know.
right? So how do
Yeah.
you protect against it? And I think that's what we're going to be talking a lot about over the next couple of months. Yeah. Amazing. Let's go have fun. Let's keep playing with this thing. I'm excited. All right.
Yeah, me
Well,
too.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, more to come later. And yeah, I'm excited to play.
I'm excited to start hacking it.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, the attack surface is just infinite.